Hello, epic gamers! Welcome to a cast of a TnT match. Today we'll be casting tournament games from the Open Division. First we will be casting, right now we'll be casting Hyilix versus MrZiggi from Group B. We have a best of 5 and let's get into it. Whoopsie. We have MrZiggi on the western side of the map and Hyilix on the east. Playing as common folk. This tournament is playing on the tournament patch, tournament mod, and we have two new units, Crows and Scavengers. Both players using Scavengers, but only MrZiggi is using the Crows, using both new units. Both players going for the mine, which I think is technically not the best defense, but I always like to use it. You can pull off some really sneaky plays with it, and it has some really niche, some fun and niche strategies you can do with it. Anyways, both players going for the Wolf, which is the best tier 3 right now, really popular in the meta, but all other tier 3s are also kind of viable right now, so yeah. And for the tier 2, Hyilix goes with the Ferret Skunk, both 6-ranged tier 2, really good against structures and tier 1, and MrZiggi going for the Snake, going against tanky enemy units. MrZiggi already preparing two mines on the main path between the pairs' bases and expanding into an expansion. Both players getting into an expansion on equal warren counts, but Hyilix has the tech advantage with his scavengers. Hyilix going for double farm, and MrZiggi going into more tier 1, getting into 3 crows and matching the farm count. Hyilix is keeping his scavenger inside of his territory, which means he will not be gaining any food. But luckily, in this version of the game, scavengers do not lose you food when they're inside of your territory. So it's fine that he keeps them inside of his territory. It's not hurting him. MrZiggi is going to try for a push here. I'm not sure if the defensive advantage is probably good enough, unless Mr. Hyilix gets baited into the mines. He should be able to defend. Decking up now into skunks. That will certainly help him defend. MrZiggi dropping even more tier 1, really wanting to continue this push. And buying this mill for some reason. He probably wants to buy even more forward warrants. He doesn't really have right now enough units right now to push. So Mr. Hyilix defended well and is on a farm advantage. On a double farm advantage right now. One farm advantage. Hyilix got out of position but throws back just in time. MrZiggi trying for some pokes, but Hyilix's tier 2 advantage saves him. And micros the skunk well, so it doesn't die. And I think that was an even trade. Let me just check the graph. Whoops. Yeah, that was a pretty even trade. As you can see at the end of the graph, both players lost about the same number of value of food. But Hyilix kept his tier 2 alive, which will be really good for this next battle. Ooh, unfortunate commander loss. That's going to be an army wipe for MrZiggi. And yeah, a huge loss in army. And Mr. Hyilix is ahead in the economy, and it looks really good for him right now. He's got 180 food. He might buy a wolf right now, or he's floating a lot of food, which gives MrZiggi a chance to come back into the game. Ooh, that was a unfortunate loss for Hyilix, but he's still fine. He should still be fine. MrZiggi is trying to push for this through this choke point between the mill and the cliff side, which is giving Hyilix's skunks a really good. Well, it's really good for them because they can concentrate their gas. Hyilix trying to scout for a few mines, but doesn't find any. And a bit of a tier 2 face-off right now. Hyilix smartly pushing a little bit with his gas, trying to weaken Ziggy's army. Now the artillery has arrived, and MrZiggi will try a different push. This will be a bit better for him. Snipes one pick, which is nice, and doesn't lose that much. Only a few squirrels. It's kind of an even trade. Ooh, really unfortunate pathfinding goes right through the single point choke point and gets army wiped for the second time. This will probably be the end for MrZiggi, as Hyilix arrives with the artillery and takes out his second expansion. Ziggy's warrants are completely exposed, and yeah, that's it for this game, I assume. Yeah, Ziggy taps out. Game 1 goes to Mr. Hyilix. Just Hyilix. Hyilix. Yeah. Let's go right into game 2. Ooh, MrZiggi swapping out his color for the blue team, and Hyilix staying loyal to the common folk in the red on the eastern side of the map. Both players swapping out their decks. Hyilix, after his victory, doesn't want to be caught with the same strats again. Goes into Falcon, Cam, Snake. Keeps the wolf, but goes into wire instead of mine. And MrZiggi swaps out his wolf for the fox, but keeps the rest of his units the same. Pretty even map. Nothing special. There's a one choke backdoor into Hyilix's base, but Ziggy doesn't have any snakes, so it probably will not be relevant unless he tries some snake shenanigans. Standard 8 farm plays from both players. Expansions are a bit far from the home base for both players, but nothing ridiculous. Hyilix's natural is on the low ground, which is a bit unfortunate for him, so that might motivate him to go into a one base play. The first tier 2 from Hyilix, and it's the Cam, probably the best choice. Falcons would be a bit too exposed, and MrZiggi goes for the logical choice and builds some scavengers. Both players staying on a single base and building up their armed forces. Ziggy again, building up 2 mines in front of the enemy's mill. Really good for pushing, if you manage to bait your enemy into it, but it's also nice to warn you when an enemy moves out. Hyilix is saving up a bit and blocking off, prioritizing blocking off the back door. That is 60 food right here. I would at least put some squares in front of the main entrance. I find it extremely unlikely that the enemy would push through the back door in the first place. And then pops down for a wire into this sideway, which doesn't even do anything because it's not connected, it's just a pocket. MrZiggi takes a ninja, good for him, and goes into the fox. He's going to try for some pokes. Hyilix. Hyilix's base is on the high ground, so he's actually pretty fine, safe from the fox. And goes for a bit of a move out right now. and just expands and goes to secure his expansion. MrZiggi starts mass farming on his natural. Hyilix has no idea this even exists. He doesn't even know the base exists, yeah. That's a bit unfortunate for Hyilix. This is why you have to scout often. And Hyilix actually sells off his natural and goes into double snake because he scouted the fox. He did not scout the fox, okay. He just assumes MrZiggi has something in his back pocket and goes into snakes just in case. MrZiggi expanding just to make sure Hyilix doesn't suspect anything. And he actually also drops a mine here, which would warn him if Hyilix would try rallying some troops to his ninja base. Hyilix is outvaluing MrZiggi by a huge margin, but the fox is about to pop out, and MrZiggi has almost caught up. He will be able to start sniping down Hyilix's armed forces. Unfortunately, MrZiggi has no pigeons, which means only 2 tags, or a tag and a hit from a cam, will completely destroy the fox. Now the dance will begin. The high ground here is actually completely... Oh! Hyilix almost catching the fox, but, well, doesn't. And MrZiggi gets a single snake for his troubles. An engagement starts. Mr. Hyilix is not trying to snipe down the fox, just trying to win the battle. The mill will start tanking for Ziggy now. And Hyilix is pulling a bit back so he doesn't get mill tanked. Tries to snipe down the fox, but ooh, that's a double tag. I think that's it for the that's it for the fox. So Hyilix should, yeah, the fox is dead. And Hyilix has actually no army right now, so MrZiggi will be able to snipe down this mill. Yeah, Ziggy's outnumbering Hyilix right now, and he has a way bigger economy. So this is it over. This is probably over for Mr. Hyilix. Even tanks all the way like a Chad. And that's over. Hyilix is starving right now, just trying to rally last of his troops. Not giving up hope. But yeah. Second game goes to MrZiggi. And it's 1-1. An even game, an even match right now. Let's go for game 2. Game 3, I mean. Ooh, MrZiggi swapping out a commander once again. He has no loyalties to any faction. Now playing as the Civilized. And Hyilix on the other side of the map. Staying loyal to the Civilized, but not to his deck. Swaps out his Wolf for Boar and his Wire for some balloons. And he also swapped something for pigeons, I don't know what. MrZiggi also swaps his crows for pigeons. Goes for lizards instead of squirrel. MG instead of mine, and keeps the fox. And also swaps Scavs for some skunks. Hyilix has absolutely no good naturals to expand into. MrZiggi has a natural on the low ground right here, but it's not the best expansion either. But at least he has a nice campfire he could take, potentially. This seems to be shaping up to be a one-base game. MrZiggi is actually rushing double tier 1, I did not even notice. Hyilix is responding with a single Squirrel Warren. Ziggy should be able to snipe a single corner pig, but decides to go back, or wait for more lizards at least. But that will mean a single squirrel will get out. Which, yeah, you should pull back. You would lose too many lizards from this. Loses 4 lizards for a farm, which is technically worth it, at least tempo-wise. You get 10 tempo food at least, but technically you will lose 20 food in the long term. Ziggy expands. Both players on even farm counts right now. Hyilix is going into pigeons to try to save some of his pigs, I assume. I think more squirrels would probably be better. Ziggy trying to find a back door, but everything here is blocked off thanks to these trees and bushes. Hyilix floating huge amounts of food. That is not really advisable against a rushing player. And Ziggy right now is 1 farm ahead. Hyilix trying to push while floating almost 300 food. Hyilix should totally see this, I think, because of his pigeons. Oh! Extreme unfortunate rally from MrZiggi. His lizards path through the water right through the Hyilix's army. And MrZiggi knows he's in a weak spot right now, so he tries to build some MG defenses. Hyilix fails to capitalize on his army advantage and instead goes into some eco. Ziggy tries to snipe down the mill, loses 3 lizards in the process, so it's value neutral, but I guess it does give him a little bit of tempo. And it stops the mill from gaining hit points, so good for Ziggy. And Ziggy going for another stealth ninja right next to Hyilix's base. Extremely risky play, especially considering Hyilix has already shown he has flying troops, which could easily scout the base. Theoretically. It's a Mexican standoff, as both players start building defenses right next to one another. The territory curving along the ground. Ziggy will try to snipe down the... Oh! But Hyilix cleverly sells the balloon before it takes any damage. And takes a nice advantageous army trade. Hyilix has a huge army advantage right now, while even on income. Ooh, gaining even more advantage by sniping down that building. A lot of Hyilix's army advantage is caught up in the 2 balloons right here. So he might want to sell down the back balloon and get into his tier 3. Yeah, that's excellent. He should just move up the balloon up probably. If he had built it back here, then he would the balloon would scout to the base, which would have been nice for him, but yeah. Ziggy only 1 farm ahead right now, but still behind on the army. And behind on tech. He isn't building anything useful. Selling off some of his warrants, I think he might be migrating his production to his natural. He will outflank this siege. MrZiggi building up his stack. And the boar is paid and 50 seconds away from coming out. Which is unfortunate for Ziggy, because Ziggy has no snakes, no fox, and only massing tier 1. So he'll probably get destroyed the moment the boar gets out. But there's still chance for MrZiggi. Ziggy could still try for a base rush, because his mills are distributed all over the map. But Hyilix scouts Ziggy's main expansion now, so he will probably be careful enough to not let the base race happen. Ziggy has not scouted in a long time, and does not know about the boar, unfortunately for him. Ooh! Yeah, Ziggy pushes right into the boar. The boar takes no damage, getting healed up by the 3 pigeons. And Ziggy's army is completely shattered. No chance of victory remains. Well, almost no chance. I guess he could still try for a base rush. Plus the Hyilix buys even another campfire, so yeah, he'll just steamroll through everything. And that's it! Hyilix takes game 2 and is on his match point. Let's go to game 4. Will Hyilix take the win? Or will we get a 5th game? Hyilix once again swapping out this faction for the KSR in the east. MrZiggi with the common folk in the west. Ziggy taking moles instead of pigeons. And taking scavs again, keeping the rest of his... Oh wait. MrZiggi actually swaps to common folk, and Hyilix takes the KSR. Hyilix swaps out his commander, probably because Ziggy stole the common folk from under him. And Ziggy is actually going into moles right now, keeping the rest of his deck same. And Hyilix going back to his first deck from the first game, except taking moles instead of crows. Interesting. MrZiggi trying for a 9 mole triple mole rush. If he gets 6 moles out, he should be able to snipe down the mill. But he must wait. He must wait for 6 moles. Otherwise he will fail. Oh, he's trying to pressure the Warren, forces the cell, but and takes a farm at least. But moles deal 1 damage to units right now. Moles deal 1 damage to units. Oh no, trying for the base rush with 3 moles only, which will not work unfortunately. Which is a huge food loss for MrZiggi. And Hyilix already has 2 scrolls out, which will shut down any further aggression from MrZiggi. And having no eco, yeah, this will just... It's over for MrZiggi. He unfortunately didn't know that you need at least 6 moles to take down a fully farmed up mill, and completely fumbles the ball on his rush. Tries for it again, hoping Hyilix would try to end the game by pushing his main base. Unfortunately... Oh! Hyilix misses the triple. But he doesn't move out yet. He's totally within vision range. Like, the mill has a pretty big vision range, so Hyilix totally saw MrZiggi's army on the edge of the vision. Hyilix is just building up right now at a huge eco advantage, so MrZiggi just has to realize that he has lost the game. Hyilix being too careful not to let his opponent sneak a win from under him. Ziggy going into a few squirrels, but Hyilix already has the counter in having more squirrels. Well, he has less squirrels, but he's got the big squirrels, which count as more squirrels, so yeah. More eco, more money. Well, Hyilix is not exactly pushing his advantage that hard. Just ecoing up, which does give Ziggy a bit of a chance to come back. But Hyilix already has the counter to Mass Squirrel in the form of skunks, got some nice tanking moles, and that should be an easy win for Mr. Hyilix. As he pushes in, takes out the production, takes out the army. Nice micro from MrZiggi, pulling back into his warrens, but unfortunately it's not enough. Fumble the ball too hard, and Hyilix takes the win. Congratulations to Hyilix on the first victory of the entire tournament. And that will be it for, well, for this game. But I will be casting a second game right after this one. I'll just set it up. Okay. Second game will be Karsmars versus Scav. Both players again from the Open Division, and both players from Group D. Let's get into it. Game 1. Scav, spawning in the southwest, in the yellow civilized. Karsmars in the east, playing as the red common folk. Both players taking the meta wolf. Karsmars going for a squizzard mole composition with skunks as a solid anti-tier 1 and the new scavenger unit. Meanwhile, Scav, the player Scav, is going for a lizard raven composition. Trying out the new tier 1 unit in his composition, and further going for the ferrets as a pushing tier 2, coupled with 2 defenses, the MG and the balloon. Unfortunately for Scav, he will not be able to do any advanced balloon pushes because the entire middle of the map is completely devoid of mills, but maybe he will be able to pull off something with the campfires, or at least he'll be safe. Be able to build some defenses if he wanted to get some greed. Scav going for the classic MG into destroying the closely spawned campfire strategy, which we've already seen once in the previous set of games. Which is good for him, I guess. Otherwise, a standard opening from both players. Scav already taking the campfire and expanding at the same time. Karsmars stacking up and expanding. And Scav going into some quick ferrets. He will probably try to push a little bit into Karsmars, trying to snipe some units or something. Maybe get some farms. Luckily for Karsmars, his base is on the high ground, so Scav will have little opportunity sniping any farms. Karsmars going high into eco on 4 farms already against Scav's 2 farms. But Scav will try to use his lizards to snipe the scavengers of Karsmars. This is one disadvantage of trying to eco up using the scavengers, and Gabo loses both units at only the cost of a few lizards. 4 lizards, I think. That's a 40 food advantage for Scav and tempo advantage. Ooh! Scav doing an advanced maneuver, rallying his army in such a way that 2 parts of his armies would arrive on 2 different sides of the base, of enemy's base, managing to distract the enemy's army with 1 group, and sniping 7 pigs with his other group, almost taking down the base with his ferrets. That would have been devastating for Karsmars. But Karsmars, luckily, still has an alive expansion with enough farms at least to survive, to still be in the game, and has a huge tempo advantage right now, which just disappeared. So he has no tempo advantage right now. A very small tempo advantage right now. The only advantage of Karsmars is that he has stack units, while Scav is stuck with 2 ferrets, which don't really do anything really in combat. Not anything good. And oh, unfortunately Scav tried some sneaky tactics and loses 5 of his murder crows. Now stuck defending with no real good combat units, honestly, and will unfortunately lose the expansion. Trying to defend with his 2 ferrets, but they are not really doing that much. Karsmars doesn't have any anti-air units left, so these 2 crows are able to take down the rest of his army. And the lizard's speed managed to take down Karsmars' skunk. Still a very close game. dynamic game as well. Scav now with the army advantage is trying to push into Karsmars' natural. Karsmars will have to hold because he's holding the economic advantage. If he holds this, he will be able to win, and unfortunately this Scav's... Oh, I thought he was mismicroing and losing his ferrets. But actually he manages to use the ferrets to destroy Karsmars' natural. And Karsmars steps out. I think he still had a chance, but... Yeah, he totally had a chance. The army values were equal. The economies were technically unequal here, but that's because Karsmars lost a few farms on his natural. He could have rebought those and buy himself some time and a little bit of money. He totally still had a chance. Unfortunately, a bit of a too early quit. But, well, that's a victory for Scav then. Let's go for match 2. Wrong replay. Let's go into game 2. In Civilized Yellow, Scav spawns in the northeast and Karsmars in the west. Both players are relatively close, with only 2 dense mills separating them. Scav going into another strange tier 1 composition, Toad Mole, one of the strangest ones yet. Coupling that with the 2 meta units, Falcon and Wolf, and a bit of defense push units with the artillery, which we also don't see often, and the balloon. Karsmars, meanwhile, has a relatively meta deck. I think it's the same deck he already had. I don't recall what he had. I don't think he had ferrets. And I don't think he had balloon, maybe. Karsmars doesn't have a tier 3, which means he's planning to finish this match in the mid game with his tier 2 units, probably. Oh, Karsmars may be going for a nice small rush right here, spotting the double farms right next to each other. He must have read that from Urban's Olive Mole Guide, which you can read on the Steam Workshop. Steam Guide section. I don't think you can read it on Workshop. Karsmars, meanwhile, teleported back to build up his farms, then teleports back here, sells off the rush, which already forced Scav to miss out on one farm, and go into his suboptimal tier 1 composition. Scav, due to not having any good tier 1 units, is forced into a falcon, into building 2 falcons, so he has at least anything which can do anything. Meanwhile, Scav himself building a bit of a rush here, but unfortunately Karsmars already has some defensive units and manages to push back Scav's attack. Scav tries again, and it might work this time, because Karsmars is rallying his troops to the front of his base. A bit too forward, because he's pushing right now, which forces Scav on the defensive. But he has the tech advantage, and Scav will probably be able to defend this on the account of Karsmars not having that many anti-air units. Karsmars should really wait right now, otherwise these Falcons will alpha damage him to no end. The Toads are actually pretty good at tanking, because they will rush forward and then deal a lot of alpha damage against the weak squirrels. Ooh, unfortunately wasting a bit on a mole. And that's it. Karsmars has no entire units left and is forced back. Scav could totally probably snipe a few farms here, but decides to pull back instead, enjoy his 1 farm disadvantage. Yeah. Instead decides to build a defensive unit, despite having a huge tempo advantage. Well, this is the balloon, so but it's still double. He's double army value of Karsmars. Even now managed to snipe a few squirrels. Karsmars himself building a defensive balloon while expanding. He should probably push it up a bit to the river, honestly. But this conservative position is not really bad either. You don't want to be kept with your pants down. Meanwhile, Scav is waiting for enough money for his own expansion. Scav going for 12 toads. I think Scav is a pretty good player, and karsmars is also pretty good. I'm feeling like Scav is playing random decks, honestly, because this looks like a random deck. Or maybe he just wanted to play a strange deck. The game has stabilized, both players catching up on army value and echoing up on their naturals. Karsmar still stuck on tier 1, Scav stuck on his Falcon Toad composition. Karsmar's finally pushing up his balloon to the river and out echoing Scav right now. Scav is going to maybe pull a balloon in the middle. Instead, he farms up while Karsmars sneakily puts up some flanking moles, which is going to be a bit awkward because he also has moles in his main army, which will also get rallied when he tries to flank. But he could totally snipe down some of these farms if he moves quickly. Or he could wait for 6 moles and snipe the whole expansion at once. Ziggy's army is really close, so it will be a bit of a race, but the Toads managed to take out all the troops. Unfortunately, they also detonated themselves, so it actually turns out to be an even trade. No real loss for karsmars because of the Toads. Pretty unfortunate for Scav, but at least he saved his base. And karsmars finally taking up into his own falcons. While Scav, no player really going into any advanced units. Bit of a stalemate right now. Both players on 16 farms. 10 farms at least, I mean. Both players inching closer to one another. Karsmars building up, pushing up his balloons completely to the front. And as the battle will start, the Toads will get a huge value, destroying everything on the ground, but not everything enough, because Karsmars actually is left with just enough troops to kill all of Scav's remaining falcons. And both players are pushed back into their defensive positions. Scav losing a little bit more than Karsmars in that exchange. This top balloon is not really doing anything. It could probably be sold off, and he might Ziggy might really want to. I mean, Scav really might want to build an artillery right now. Cleverly building the artillery in this back pocket, which cannot be reached easily by the enemy commander, which will mean that the enemy commander will not be able to rally his falcons to snipe down the artillery, unless he goes all the way around, or somehow manages to sneak through the main army. I think this artillery might be in range of Karsmars' expansion, which will be a huge win for Scav, and obviously it will also push back Karsmars' army, allowing Scav to take this expansion safely. Or forcing Karsmars into a disadvantageous battle at least. Scav in the background is also building a wolf. And Karsmars realizes he's going to lose the expansion. He should really sell off his farms. Instead, he decides to not push, instead goes just around the defenses, which is not really a bad idea, since the balloon here has been sold off. But he will be cut off from his supply lines. Ooh, really good Toad detonations. Karsmars tried to focus fire Scav's falcons, unfortunately miss micros and taps out, knowing he has lost too much army to get back into the game. 2 points for Scav right now. Scav is on his match point. Let's see if he can take the whole game in this third match on the IC map. Karsmars in Common Folk Red in the north, Scav spawns in his Civilized Yellow in the east. Karsmars going for the same deck pretty much. Opting for Fox now instead of whatever tier 2 he had before. Skunks, I think. And Scav, once again, pressing the random button on the unit selection screen. Coming out with this deck. No tier 1, except for pigeons. Only falcons and big squirrels, Scavs, for tier 2. A boar, which is a relatively good unit, I guess. It is pretty good with the pigeon if you manage to keep it alive. And some nice defenses. Wire was buffed in this patch, so it's apparently pretty good, but I haven't tried it yet. Map-wise, both players spawn close to one another once again, but there are nice two potential ninja expansions in the other two corners. Ooh, Karsmars trying for a cheeky mole rush. Ziggy will sell off cleverly and go quickly into the tier 2, which is quite clever, considering the fact that he does not have... that he needs the extra time to get out his units out. He stays on 7 farms. This is apparently a legitimate strategy outside of random decks, where somebody, Tanka for example, goes into a 7 farm snake rush. Then he kills all of your picks with a single tag. His pigeons are actually relatively useful to heal up his tier 2, which will give him a lot of staying power. Karsmars, not noticing how easily exploitable Scav is right now, decides to go into his own expansion, but at least he's massing tier 1, which is relatively good against these tier 2, since Scav has no splash damage. Karsmars decides to posture with his army foolishly. Despite being on an eco advantage and expanding, he should be chilling back home, getting more army, more eco, more tech. Posturing for little no reason, he's going to get sniped down right now without his defensive advantage, losing 3 squirrels for free, 4, 5, getting 1 scav for his troubles, but losing the rest of his army. In exchange, Scav is going to push forward, and he might be able to take the game home right now. Ooh, that's a big, really painful, not killing that Scav. I don't really see a way of Karsmars could pull it back from this dip. Yeah, Scav is just too far ahead. He has too much tempo, and these 4 Scavs will clean up house. And that's it for these games. Scav takes out his... Congrats to Scav for his victory in the tourney. Well, 1 victory within the tourney. And good luck to Karsmars in his next matches. He played pretty well, just getting slightly outplayed by Scav. That's it for this cast, and see you next time. Evil out.